Nice show in Beijing. Jobs and the economy over here, though, remain a top concern for many Americans, most Americans. So the president will have their full attention when he delivers his State of the Union address on Tuesday. It's expected that he'll focus on plans to create jobs and to boost the economy. And a brand new Fox News poll showing that 40% say the worst of the recession is over, but a majority, 52%, are afraid that the worst is still yet to come. Brad Blakeman was Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush. Zerlina Maxwell, a State Department consultant and a contributing writer at ebony.com. And it's so nice to see you both. Thank you both for being here.
Thank
you. Zerlina, the word sort of leaking out over the last couple of days that the president's really going to focus on jobs and the economy in his speech Tuesday night. And I think to a lot of Americans, they're probably asking what's taken so long.
Well, you know, I think that he has introduced the American Jobs Act. We can't forget that. But he has 3 jobs on Tuesday night. He needs to focus on jobs and be very specific. He needs to engage the American people to put pressure on Congress so that they can pass these legislative efforts that will get Americans back to work. And he also needs to lay out a progressive vision for the future and make sure that we can get these things that have already been proposed, like immigration and gun violence prevention, but also tackle very important issues like climate change. And so he has a number of different tasks for Tuesday night, but he needs to focus on jobs first and foremost.
Brad, this president made history in November by winning re-election while the unemployment rate around the country was over 7%. That hadn't been done since FDR. I just wonder how his ideas, these proposals that he'll outline on Tuesday, will be received on the Hill. Are Republicans going to be receptive to any of them?
Not if it involves spending more money, Greg. And let's face it. Here in America today, we have a divided government. We have a House that is controlled by Republicans, a Senate that's controlled by Democrats, and a White House that's controlled by a Democratic president. While the American people may have elected the status quo in governing, they don't expect it in governance. So if the president takes to the podium and pontificates and lectures instead of being conciliatory and working our problems out together, we're not going to get anywhere in a new Congress. And one thing Democrats must remember is there is no mandate for this president. There is no room for spending. The American people understand we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And if the president addresses that and is conciliatory, I think that it will be met with Republicans with working together.
Zerlina, the president in a preview told Democrats this week that some of the ideas he has on jobs and the economy that he'll be talking about on Tuesday night, improvements in education, boosting clean energy production, and reducing the deficit. Does that sound like a jobs plan to you?
Well, I certainly think that the jobs plan, the American Jobs Act that I keep saying, and it sounds like a talking point, but it really actually is a piece of legislation that we should pass, and that is up to the House Republicans to get that through. But I think that part of the problem for the president is that he's been, beating the same drum repeatedly over and over and over again, and he keeps coming up against Republican opposition in the House. You know, Brad said that we have a spending problem. I agree that there are things that we need to look at to get to make sure that our deficit is under control. That's more of a long-term problem. In the short term, we need to spend more in order to get the economy back on track and to get Americans back to work.
No, quite the contrary, Rick. We spend too much
I'm just
money.
going by what the economists say.
Our economy is not growing because people are fearful. You know, one of your great heroes, Bill Clinton, said there's about $2 trillion that people are sitting on. Why? Because they have no confidence and surety in the marketplace. We have a government, a Democratic Senate, that hasn't produced a budget in 4 years. That's the only thing really they're charged to do is get a budget. The president has submitted a budget, yet not one Democrat will vote for it. Until we get our economic house in order, and that's really a Democratic mission to do with Republican help, but you guys can't even get a budget through the Senate.
But Brad,
we've got a budget through the House.
I got to ask you, Brad, because the Republicans talking about getting their house in order, the Republican Party is split on a unifying message for a way forward. We're hearing, sort of cracks, in the wall on the sequestration debate, on immigration. It doesn't seem like the Republicans are in lockstep on a lot of issues. I'm just wondering how they can combat this president and keep him from pushing his agenda forward when they're not really on the same page themselves.
Well, we are on the same page. We're on the same page with fiscal responsibility. We're on the same page of not continuing to spend and not get a return on our money. There aren't going to be any more stimulus bills where we pay off unions. Now, when you say the Republicans are not together on immigration, we are working through immigration. Republicans, this is a metamorphosis in coming up with legislation. We shouldn't be forcing things down legislators' throats. They should be voting their conscience and voting on the bills themselves. But one thing we got to do, Rick, is we got to start reading bills. The bills that are passed in the middle of the night, the Pelosi rule is you've got to pass it before you figure out what's in it. Those days are over.
Zerlina, I'll give you a last word. Go ahead.
I think that we need to get the economy moving and get Americans back to work. And, as citizens, I think the president is going to charge the American people with the responsibility of putting pressure on our elected officials to get things moving. We can't just talk about the deficit in the short term when really we need to spend more. We can't keep cutting jobs because cutting right now is laying off teachers, it's laying off firefighters, it's not educating our kids, it's going to take people out of Head Start. I mean, these are things that are not going to get us on the right track, and we need to focus and get engaged and get the economy back on the right track.
Two starkly different views on a way forward, well presented by both of you. So thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
Very good.